So I graduated from Drew University in 1987, and I had a thought of going to law school, but I was frankly in a lot of debt, and I was the first in my family to go to college, so I was uncertain about next steps. College was challenging, felt a little pioneering from my family perspective, and then so I worked for a while. But the law was sort of nagging at me, or in my mind. I wanted to apply and stay in New Jersey, and because I worked full time, I couldn't imagine going during the day. So I looked at Rutgers, of course, the People's Electric Law School. I say that often, so proud to say it, and found out about the minority student program. And it spoke to me. I identified in a couple of ways. One, half of my family comes from Ecuador and Venezuela, and English not being their first language, and understanding sort of the struggles on that side of my family. And on the other side, just growing up in really economically challenging circumstances, I identified in that way as well. So I applied. I had no idea really what was to come and what the program would be for me, and it was so much a part of defining my law school experience. The support, the connection with others in the MSP program. I was struggling to find what the right word is, and it's beyond camaraderie, beyond just sort of a family. There really was a collective sense of purpose together. I really felt the tremendous support of the program and my law school compadres with me. Rutgers is, I think, reflective of our society. We embrace everyone, and it was very important to me to study at a school whose mission was really inclusive of public interest and social justice, and also accommodated and taught many of the other disciplines around corporate law and trial preparation, and it was really wide-reaching, but at its core, it is a public interest law school, and you really felt that when you were here. So when I first graduated law school, I took a job at a law firm, was offered a position, and I thought that that's what I should do. So I went there, and I immediately felt among a good group of people, many of whom with whom I'm close today, I felt like a fish out of water. It's a predominantly white male world then, in any case. I think we've made some strides, certainly. But that's what the law firms were certainly then. And in any event, the thought that nagged at me constantly was the need to make a difference. So to practice law in some capacity, but to make a difference. And so I explored a government option. I thought that that meant the Attorney General's office, and it could well have. But instead I landed in the Office of Governor's Counsel under Governor Whitman at the time. And I immediately felt at home. I mean, I felt, once I got my sea legs in governor's office, it really allows you the opportunity to make a difference. And so I stayed in government until just recently, and loved it. And I do think in that environment you can really make a difference. The MSP program, I think at its core, is really a program about ensuring that communities are represented. And so the training was phenomenal. The preparation was tremendous, and the support, of course, was an integral part of the program. But what it really taught us was to look outside into the world and to identify with individuals who were in need of the law, to help, to reform, to change, and to really bend the arc of justice in a positive way. I've always been drawn to a vulnerable population. When I was growing up, I was really economically challenged environment. For a period of time, short period of time, we were on public assistance. And as I matured and and learned these new tools, that one of them being the law, to me it was just so critical to use that tool to help vulnerable populations. And one of the most significant ways you can help a vulnerable population is to be sure that their health is taken care of, that they have adequate insurance, that there's food security, that there's housing stability, that there's employment stability. And so once I got to government, I had an opportunity to work at the Department of Human Services, and that for me was just a place that I was able to really help. The MSP program, I wasn't a lawyer in the department. I entered government through my law degree, through my Rutgers degree. But it really was this training that the MSP program provided to me, this empathy. It's a real empathetic education that was married to my personal experience, and then I think it made me the best public servant I could become. It was always in our line of sight to be cognizant of who in society could use legal assistance, either personally or through some way to change the law. And that fight, that struggle, depending on what context within which you're working, absolutely continues and is probably never more vital than, I would say, today's current environment. It was under incredible scrutiny. It could have, gone by the wayside because the pressure to do so, I think, was so enormous nationally. And for all the people who fought to keep this program intact and who recognized its importance and its place in training the next generations of attorneys, kudos to them and the MSP leadership throughout the decades, because if we were today living, working, existing in an environment without people so you need to look to the law and find people who look like you, have common experiences, understand from where you come. And unless you have that, you're not going to adequately or effectively, you may do your job as an attorney, but on the receiving end, and that's who's important, the client in that picture, there's going to be a distance between the outcome for that person and their experience with the lawyer, his or her experience with their representation. Diversity and inclusion are terms now that have become sort of commonplace in the workplace, right? So people have diversity and inclusion officers, some people check the box and some people really live it. And I think that no matter what you call it, unless you're living it authentically, whether it's in a law firm, in a courtroom, at any job, small, big, doesn't matter, people understand that. People who work there really understand what's real and what's not. And in today's society, unless we are, we're not monolithic, we're not monochromatic, we are a beautiful tapestry of so many kinds of people and languages and colors and religions who have never really been, frankly, more under attack than today. And so even if we didn't have the situation that we have right now with the federal government, I think many people feel a disconnect from, not to be political, but people feel a disconnect from federal leadership right now. Our society is never more colorful and beautiful than we have today, and having legal representation, either personally or in a courtroom, or in every profession, is just so vitally important. So people feel included in society and not excluded from the very society in which they live. The challenges that the Department of Human Services contends with on a statewide basis are the same whether you're a Republican or a Democrat from a human perspective. So Republicans, Democrats experience hunger, food insecurity, unemployment, issues about insurance, illness, all of that. Anything that affects the human condition is not partisan. So the solutions sometimes get politicized, but I think I had the great fortune of working for a Republican, for a Democrat, back to Republican, back to a Democrat, ending with a Republican. And I think I really tried to lead a department that was more concerned about the human condition, that the population who we were impacting, they were represented well, that their rights were respected, that their benefits were conferred, that we established policies that would help the human condition, not a political agenda. And one of the things, I guess, in that vein I was most proud of was in a Republican administration, we expanded Medicaid. And expanding Medicaid, first of all, in a Republican administration is very controversial, but we did it, and with that came so much in terms of mental health services, addiction services, and that doesn't know political party. That's everybody. That's a degree or two of separation for who is impacted by mental illness or substance use or intellectual and developmental disabilities. So that's really what I'm most proud of. So the empathy and the training that I gained at Rutgers in my law school education, I really carried through entering into the world of government under a Republican administration, ending in a Republican administration, a couple Democrats thrown in the middle. It just didn't matter. It was really working from principles of equity and fairness and empathy. One of the things, when I was the Commissioner of the Department of Human Services, we were responsible for the county welfare agencies. Now, I wanted more than anything to be sure that applying for public assistance was a process that was dignified for someone who would be standing in the rain with a stroller on a street, on a rainy day, and which is terrible. But and we made some improvements. There's a long way for government to still go, but the orientation to the problem was not check the box, get it done. It was the person. Did we try to make it as easy and convenient as possible? And did they have all the rights that were afforded to them based upon a whole host of issues? Be they economic or disability, whatever it was, they needed to be sure that they were, that we made sure that everything that could be available to them was. And that was just vitally important, because it's such a privilege in government to be able to create that change for the state. I think when, just like during this celebration, when the MSP program looks at our roster of alumni, boy, are we impressive. There are people serving in every aspect of the law, judges and public interest organizations. So some of the most impactful reforms are coming from people who went to Rutgers Law School and participated in the MSP program. So these are change agents. These are people who are committed to social justice, and when you read about significant changes, you'll see their names crop up all across the state and nationally. You'll see their names crop up, and we're a really proud bunch. If you think about some of the most progressive reforms that have impacted New Jersey, that are tied at all to the law, there's somebody at MSP involved in those changes, involved in that reform. There's no doubt. One of the proudest things that I can think about that in my career in government was creating NJ Family Care, being part of the team. So when in the late 90s, the federal government came down with the CHIP program, the Children's Health Insurance Program, and I was part of a team that created NJ Kid Care and NJ Family Care. And that's today how New Jersey refers to its Medicaid program, to the whole program. But that program provides for kids and families insurance for immunizations, wellness checks, it has done so much for so many New Jerseyans, and that's one of the things I'm just most proud
And
of.
indigent New